Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Popcorn Pals. We're in for a treat, friends, because we're sitting down with the writer-director of The Mountain, Rachel House. I'm Timmy Fland, movie buff, and this is Popcorn Pals, a popcorn podcast with Leigh and Tim spin-off, and I have a great episode for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So let's talk The Mountain, which is a New Zealand family adventure about 3 children on a mission to find healing under the watchful eye of Taranaki Maunga, or mountain, and they learn the true spirit of adventure and the magic of friendship. The Mountain is directed by Rachel House from a screenplay by House and Tom Furness, based on a story from Furness. The film stars Elizabeth Atkinson, Terrance Daniel, Reuben Francis, Brian Cole, Troy Kingi, Fern Sutherland, and Sulkana Shah. Rachel House is one of New Zealand's most highly regarded actors. She has had a long and celebrated career both locally and internationally across stage, television, and film. Her film and TV credits will make you gasp and realise how many great stories she's been a part of, including Netflix's Heartbreak High and Apple TV Plus's Foundation, as well as Moana, Soul, Thor Ragnarok, Boy, Hunt for the Wilderpeople, and Penguin Bloom. In recognition of her significant contributions to the theatre, film and television industry, House has been awarded an Arts Laureate New Zealand Order of Merit, Manawaihin, from WAFT, and Te Waipunarangi Metaraki Awards as an actor and director. The Mountain represents House's directorial debut, and it is a triumphant one at that. House was approached by Picky Films to direct and develop The Mountain's original script written by Tom Furness. She was drawn to the adventurous and hopeful story that Furness had drafted and brought a Maori worldview to the story. I sat down to speak with House as part of the Sydney Film Festival and wish I had more time. In our relaxed and open conversation, we first got a bit distracted by my new Gandalf tattoo, but ventured into discussing the personal layers she brought to the story. The power of using kids as vessels to communicate profound and important things about culture and identity, and we look back at a film that brought her joy. Let's take a listen.
In your Māori, your mountain is your ancestor. They'd be so proud of me if I got to the top.
Rachel, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Your film is blinking beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I've been so looking forward to speaking to you about this. Thank you so much for bringing us this story.
Thank you.
I saw The Mountain on Sunday at the Sydney Film Festival.
Oh, yes.
Wondered as it came out at 9:30 in the morning.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, but like, what an audience, because...
Beautiful audience.
How do you receive feedback? Because the reaction in the room was so powerful. How did that make you feel?
Lovely. Like, grateful, relieved. The thing is, the kids were with us, and I suppose I'm so kind of defensive or protective is probably the better word, that everything's sort of about that. It's about, and the kids are feeling really good and the kids are receiving it. So, I don't know, it's all through the kids, really, when the kids are around.
Yeah.
If it was just me, I'd probably be like, oh, wow, this is so great, be quite blown away. But I think I was just sort of checking to see if the kids were really receiving it, which is nice.
I have to say that something that you said up on the stage was that laughter is important.
Yeah.
And your film balances humour and heart so perfectly, which I think is why it resonated so much with the audience. Now, before I dive into your film a bit further, I want to nerd out with you for a second. I get a real kick out of when movies reference other movies or things within the cultural zeitgeist. And I loved it when Sam picked up the staff and did the Gandalf, "You shall not pass" moment. Because the day before I saw your film, I got a Gandalf tattoo with my brother.
No!
And I want to show you.
What the haka?
Yeah.
What a beautiful, that is so
Like a
beautiful.
sketchwork. I'm so glad you like it. And so this was so
That's
fresh.
Phenomenal.
So it was just another way for me to, I guess, connect with some of your characters and that sort of sense of adventure.
Yeah.
Akin to the adventure that the kids go on. And, I was thinking when I saw that film when I was around the age of your kids in the film, about 11 or 12, it changed my life. And so...
Did it? Can you say why? Sorry.
Why?
Yeah, why did it change your life?
Yeah, sure. I love my popcorn, right? And I've always loved going to the movies and watching films.
Yes.
When I watched The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring,
Yeah.
I sat there with my best mate Jacob, with my Coke and my popcorn. And when the film ended,
Yeah.
I looked down and I hadn't touched my popcorn. And I thought, what does this mean? What does this mean that me, who has eaten all his popcorn before the film even starts usually, hadn't touched his popcorn? It just unearthed this sort of additional love of film and wanting to know, how on earth did they make this?
Yes.
I wanted to know everything and anything about the filmmaking process. And
yes.
not that it started with the first Lord of the Rings film, but it unearthed something
yes.
within me. So I always get a kick out of when movies make references like that.
That's so great. Okay, well, now I have to admit to you that that was given to Elizabeth by our stunt coordinator, Jacob Tormudi.
The staff?
The line.
Okay.
The moment was given to her. Like I said, I wanted to and land like the superhero landing, and she always found Woodface, but he added the "you shall not pass."
So good.
That was Jacob Tormudi, and I have to give him credit for that because it's so many people's favourite.
Yeah, it's just...
Well, one of their favourite movies.
There are many. Yeah. Now, Rachel, your co-writer Tom Furness had originally been inspired by a similar adventure in his childhood.
Yes.
With a friend who had cancer.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful red thread that happens through your film with Sam, Mallory and Bronco.
Yeah.
But when you were brought in to contribute to the script and then to direct, what personal layers did you bring to the story?
Tom hadn't named the mountain, and in Māori culture, we see mountains as living ancestors. So I was a little bit confused as to where we were, and that wasn't, a slight on Tom. It's just I feel like Tom didn't name a mountain because it wasn't about a living being. It was about the conquering. These three little boys were going to go and conquer this mountain. That was sort of what it was supposed to be originally in the script. And I thought, what a brilliant opportunity to be inclusive of our worldview and our perspective. Yeah. As a Māori, I named the mountain after, I made that mountain our mountain. And then it became about, rather than conquering this mountain, it was about connecting to the mountain. And I feel like there are so many of us still who weren't raised in our culture and who are still, on that journey of trying to figure out what it is to be Indigenous or to be a particular culture. And so, what she was absolutely believed that mountain was who she belonged to.
Yes.
And what she wanted to do was get closer to that mountain in order to connect, in order to be healed.
Yes.
What I also needed to do, though, by doing that, to ensure that the worldview was there and coherent, is rewrite Bronco and have him not be a little Pākehā boy, but be a little Māori boy who is completely confident in his culture and absolutely generous with his culture as well, in order to kind of show what Sam was missing out on, and also explain to Mallory what was going on as well. So Mallory is a lot like the Mallory that Tom wrote, but the other two characters are very different.
I guess your perspective and your experience and connection to your culture and the land just offered us another opportunity as humans to understand each other more.
That's it.
And what a blessing it is that you're a part of this film, because Tom's film, like you highlighted, sounds like a great story.
Yeah.
But you coming in has only elevated this story and this connection to your audience and your culture so much more. Your film explores many themes.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about how it gives space to the importance of Indigenous people, like you said, finding their connection and their place. Specifically the use of language and how you achieve this using Bronco as a vessel and the guardian of Mother Earth. How did you arrive at this specific choice? I want to call out one thing, is I just love the marriage of the spoken word, but then the marriage of the English subtitles and Maori subtitles, and bringing those words, giving them a platform and a real voice, and just this beautiful sort of combination of that.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were like, this is how I'm going to achieve this in some way?
The thing is that for somebody to be the sort of superhero Māori kid that Bronco was, he would always stick to what we call tikanga, which is the way of doing things. So that's why he goes about, when he introduces himself in the way he does it in the way that we do, in quite a formal situation. It was very important. When we are asked who we are, we say where we're from. We give the whole kind of genealogy in the same way that Bronco does. And that's why it was really important that they had to keep being asked, who are you?
Yeah.
I remember my editor going, it's so weird that they're saying, who are you? And I said, well, then otherwise Bronco wouldn't come forward and introduce himself the way that he does. So, Bronco represents the renaissance that we have just been through as a people, where our kids know exactly who they are and exactly where they're from and exactly how to do things.
And using Bronco as a vessel, it recognises, just like you said, how important it is for young people to have a connection to their culture and their land. Now let's talk about the importance of friendship and grief through your brilliant young cast.
Yes.
So we have Elizabeth Atkinson, Reuben Francis and Terrance Daniel.
Yes.
Kids are a vehicle to say and feel things we adults are afraid or incapable of. Why is that? And what is it about Sam, Mallory and Bronco's sense of adventure and friendship that you wanted to capture?
Well, also it's the age that they are as well. Like, they couldn't be any older than 11.
Very true.
Because after 11, I feel like, and this is just limited experience, I suppose, but there is a transformation that occurs. I remember it. You probably remember it too, where suddenly you're much more hyper aware of everything and mostly yourself.
Yes.
And you try and adapt and change and be cool, and you're much more cynical because you've been taught to be much more cynical about things. That age group, I feel, that's the cut-off point of believing in magic. Just how important friendship is.
Yes.
And I also loved the dynamic of the girl. And I saw Stand By Me when it first came out, and I remember being absolutely knocked out by it. I also remember feeling a little bit left out. I was kind of like, why aren't I in there? How am I being reflected? And really, I suppose, to be fair, that was my reaction then. My reaction now is, I am in there. We all are. Gender's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, the essence of those characters are still reflected in us. We just, I suppose the younger me got a bit caught up in them all being boys. Yeah. So I have never forgotten how that made me feel about friendship, I think, and how I felt when I was a kid walking through the bush with my mates, which we often did. And I wanted to just kind of bottle that somehow and put it in the film.
I wanted to just personally acknowledge a particular connection that I had with your film, and I'm going to try not to get emotional. I connected so deeply with Marilee because my mum died of cancer when I was a boy. Yeah. And I just found how you had written with Tom and how his performance came through, just those moments of him to get through something, to cross the bridge and to use memories of his mum to get him across. Yeah. It's such a beautiful metaphor, but so powerful. Yeah. And I was just an absolute mess watching your film. But I want to thank you for that, because it just brought me to a space that I hadn't been to in a while, to connect with a story and characters. It doesn't matter that they're 11 years old. No. Isn't that just the power of cinema? Yeah. So yes, so thank you for that.
No, thanks, darling. Thank you. It's awesome.
I have so many other questions I want to ask, but I do have to wrap up.
I'm sorry.
No, gosh, not at all.
I talk too much.
No, and I want to be here all day. I'll talk to the team outside. I'll buy myself some more minutes. Okay. But I want to end here. We're all about celebrating the joy of cinema at Popcorn Podcast. Could you recount an experience at the cinema or a moment in film that's brought you joy?
Oh boy, it's funny you say the word joy, because all I can think about is huge emotion, because I've been sort of talking about these formative films and formative moments within these films this morning. So this one has really, really stayed with me. NITV posted a segment from Storm Boy
Yes.
And I watched it, and it triggered all these memories for me. So I was really little, and it was the time when, you know, schools would send the kids to see movies. Remember, you know, the
Yes,
whole school would go and see a movie.
It's the best.
Absolute best. And so I remember really little, holding hands and going into the cinema like that, you know. And
Don't break the chain.
yeah, don't break the chain. And just sitting there and watching, you know, Mr. Percival. But the segment that they played was, you know, David's extraordinary performance when he was telling the story of Pelican. And I remember the feeling of when Mr. Percival died. And I remember just feeling completely changed by that in terms of probably looking back, my understanding of the cycle of life. And with that can be joy.
Absolutely.
You know, it's good to know these things,
Yeah.
I think, and to understand that it is part of life, and that's a very powerful, joyful thing, even though it feels different, Leigh.
Yeah,
Does that make-
it does. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank
and I have to
you.
say, I think you have made your version of Stand By Me.
Thank you.
So thank you for putting yourself and your story into it, because I've got chills thinking about your movie. It was so beautiful and powerful. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure to meet you.
Such a pleasure to meet you. I wish we had more time.
Tēnā kōrua, ko Bronco tōku ingoa, my guardian, o Papa Tuanuku, our OG mother. She puts up with a lot. Gotcha.
There was so much of our encounter that didn't make the cut of the interview, and I will forever hold onto those moments we shared with great fondness. The Mountain is in my top 5 favourite films of the year so far. It impacted me in such a deep and meaningful way. It is beautiful and funny and important, not only through the personal connection that I had with it, but its representation of the Māori culture and the immense talent in writing and directing House delivers is to be celebrated. I cannot wait for you to see this film and what projects House decides to direct next. Friends, thank you so much for joining me in this very special interview episode where I sat down with the writer and director of The Mountain, which you can catch in Australian cinemas from June 27. And as always, friends, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. If you enjoy our episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe. While you're there, we would love you to rate us and leave a review. You can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Alexa, and where all good podcasts are found.
I'll unclip you.
Oh, I thought you were coming to give me a hug.
Oh, no, sorry, I could do that in a second.